What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Game Dev Unchained, the #1 game development podcast about game development and the lifestyle thereof. I am your host, Brandon Pham, and with me, it's that time of the month, Ray Graham. How you doing, Ray?
Hey, man. How you doing? What's up?
All right, let's slip right into the roundtable news episode. All right, Ray. I don't want to make the whole episode about this. We've dedicated a bunch of time about what's going on with the industry. I have to touch on it a bit because you're kind of like the lifeline of what's going out, what's going on out there. A lot of layoffs are happening. Like, I want to share like the latest and greatest from my side. We'll compare notes. What's going on your side? I'm hearing people out there, man, like who's our director level, lead levels, who's kind of been out there looking, competing for very small pieces of the pie in the industry. And man, they are straight up. Like, I hear people like straight up like applying for Costco and shit, like for real, not even joking around, dude. They're looking for some type of stability. It's hard out there, and they're just looking for any job just to kind of sit out the storm that's happening. All right, I don't know if you're starting to hear that type of stuff on that side.
I'm not hearing that. I'm not hearing that. Like define small things, right? I don't know how you would define that, but like almost a lot of the people that I know have either been laid off or unsuspectedly or whatever. Like as of right now, a lot of the people I know have found other jobs.
Oh, okay. They're bouncing back. Oh.
Yeah. And I don't, maybe it's just the folks that I'm talking to, and there might be other ones that I haven't talked
Engineers.
to. No, not even. Actually.
All right, just gonna give an idea of what the disciplines are kind of split looking like.
I'm gonna name one of the other disciplines, and you're gonna be like, yeah, of course. Yeah. Technical artists.
Okay, all right.
right.
Well, reaching out of your comfort zone there. Yeah.
Yeah. So exactly, like technical artists are also like, at least like, if you're good, like there seems to be some opportunities people have been able to find.
Of course. Yeah.
I think somebody found a role at Meta, and somebody else found a role some other company I can't remember that's doing some sort of UGC platform. But I'm hearing like some folks are landing on their feet. Some other people are taking the opportunity to start their own thing.
Yeah.
So I've been seeing a lot of that, but I haven't heard of anybody, at least that I know, trying to get a job at Costco. I have not heard that at all. I would love to hear more about that.
I am on the front lines, right? So I'm speaking on the artist side that are like kind of going through like this crisis of AI at the same time, probably taking like a huger hit as far as layoffs, just to kind of get people kind of up to date. Yes, you are probably hearing this recording a little later, but we're talking about NMA right now. Looking at statistics, last year about 10,000 people got laid off, right? 10,500, right? That's the numbers. The datas are coming through as of now. June-ish, we've already hit 10,000 people just this year alone. So just this year alone, we're already encroaching on the numbers that we did last year in half the year. Even though like the hopes are things are slowing down in terms of just layoffs, I do hear that Microsoft is probably doing another big round late in this quarter, earlier in the next quarter.
Definitely heard that. Yes, I definitely heard that.
Other big companies, the equivalent of, let's just say, are doing heavy performance reviews. All right. just like more like militarized performance review. And usually what that means is like, all right, round some people up because we got to start cutting even more. So unfortunately, I think people want things to slow down, but I'm not hearing it yet. So at least in the immediate future, it hasn't turned. I'm glad that you're, engineers and tech artists who are always having difficulty, right? Finding jobs are doing fine. But the artists' side are having, like, it's something that I think I've been kind of warning about. I think like when COVID was happening, when these overhiring, these roundtables that we have, I was kind of throwing up red flares saying like, yo, we're hiring too much, it's going to swing the other way. And even now I feel like this is becoming pretty brutal on overcorrection, right? This is too much, to the fact that I think it's damaging the industry. Like, it's not even about like setting the tone in terms of employer over employee power, right? Struggle or whatever, right? It's like, I'm having friends that are trying to sit this out. Like, they're not able to apply for jobs. They're on multiple interviews, and the competition, there's just so little jobs versus the amount of talent out there right now. Yeah. And I don't think that situation will change. Not just this year, but like a few years of, because, even Activision, the only team that I've seen, a big company that went through a big layoff and then immediately went through a big hiring push is Epic Games right now, right? Surprise, surprise, right? Epic had a huge layoff late last year, early this year, and they're the only ones I feel like are hiring at all because of that Disney money, right? The Disney influx, and they're building that metaverse, and so they're having even then the pick of the talent to kind of take their time, and it's the only update I've been seeing consistently that like, oh, I'm working at Epic, and some of those guys, I was like, you're working at Epic, you know what I mean? It's like, Epic used to be, in my opinion, like one of the hardest places to get through the door, and thankfully they've lowered the standards, in my opinion, right? Maybe because they just need anyone to kind of that knows Unreal to kind of go in there and make Disney stuff, right? But also remote definitely allowed them to kind of just have more talent to kind of fill these roles. But that's the general consensus of what I'm seeing the last few weeks since our last roundtable, of what people have been telling me and what I'm seeing. But the saddest part is, people are just looking for regular jobs. On LinkedIn alone, you can see people like, hey, I'm just door dashing, I'm just driving things around just to kind of keep afloat. But even then, like, how long can you really do that until you kind of think about, oh man, I need a permanent solution? This ain't just a few months. It might be till the end of the year. And this is, artists have definitely fewer choices than you guys over there on the engineering side.
I don't know. I definitely, like, you said a bunch of things there, but one of the things you said is something about like lowering of standards, and I hear that a lot. But I think that's just a natural occurrence when you just have to grow by crazy, right? Because if you keep a high standard, right, not everyone is that good. Not everyone has that much experience. Not everyone, like, there's a certain percentage of the population that fill that role, and either they're already working there or they're working somewhere else, right? But yet you have all this influx of money and you have all this content you need to build, and you need to build it. You know what I mean? So like, you have to start getting people in the door, maybe with a little bit lower bar, maybe, right? Because of the growth is just so crazy. You know what I mean? And I think that, like, VC backed startups and other like game company startups and other people that have this influx of cash are still hiring because they have these goals and objectives they're trying to hit, and they have money in the bank from the VCs, But the other way around, the publishers of the traditional, which is a lot of the traditional AAA studios, are being very, very conservative and laying off people and reducing cost.
One of the things that I always kind of pay attention to, right? Our close cousin, the movie industry, the entertainment, right? The biggest thing this past weekend that I don't think anyone's kind of connecting the dots, but I'm that guy, right? I connect dots for us, for our industry. But Furiosa, right? Mad Max came out already flopping in terms of like turnout, right? It's making maybe under 30 mil for a big budget movie like that, which is like 160. Right. The biggest pattern since COVID is that when it's not doing well, it immediately is, the marketing doesn't stop. It's like immediately, oh, it's going to be on demand in a month. Right. That kills immediately the box office ability to kind of rebound back or anything. We saw this with Fall Guy with Ryan Gosling. It's a big like stunt, backup thing. As soon as they saw like, oh, we're not making this money back, it's already available 2 weeks after being in the theaters, right? Which kind of to me defeats the longevity of even needing to go to the theaters anymore if they keep doing that, right? I think the exclusivity essentially of being in the movie theater is being ruined. At the same time, right, Planet of the Apes, which people are saying have no star power, is killing it, right? With 300, it's like the fourth movie of the franchise of the new reboot, right? And surprisingly, it did way better than most people thought. And so it's definitely, I'm bringing this up because I'm starting to see that part of the industry in this weird transition that they too don't really have the answer as to why, because Mad Max is having a great review.
I mean,
what's the history here? Even the last movie, I love the last movie too. And even
I don't know about history, right? But but like Planet of the Apes sequel, fourth movie, I actually thought it was pretty mid, quite frankly. But of course, I went to go see it because I go see every.
So you did see it,
yeah, of course, yeah. I go see every Planet of the Apes movie. I just on principle, I go see every single one.
Okay.
And the effects and like, dude, it's incredible. Okay. Right. Like it just looks gorgeous as always. Right. Mad Max, I was just the Furiosa. I was like, why are they making this movie? And I think everybody asked that question. Everybody's like, why does this movie exist? And they're like, oh, we're doing
or
back in time story for Furiosa, and we're gonna use a different actress entirely. And everybody was like, but why though? Right. And that just like nobody wanted to. And you mentioned Fall Guy. I think the first time I ever even heard that was a movie was I saw the poster in the scroll like on Amazon or something. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, I never see that before. So yeah, I think what you're saying is one thing, but like I think you could have seen that those movies would be flops from day one.
So you think it's more about the content that's really failing them than what the health of the industry is? Okay.
At least in those examples you give, I think it's really obvious. Yeah.
I think it's a mix of it for sure. Like the only reason why I brought it up, right? We're a game development podcast. The correlation that I see is that the same way that the movie industry kind of put themselves in this corner of like, you can get high quality movies at home at the same time of getting high quality movies in the theater. And we talked about this, right? We're like, most people I feel like are struggling with the backlog of great movies they know that they have versus going out there and watching and purchasing tickets to a new movie, right? Because there's only like I think time, if anything, have changed for the average consumer. There's so much competing for our attention now that these choices are becoming more and more vast, right? Versatile. And I am beginning to also see that because where the economy is, right? Like Memorial Day is usually a big box office weekend, right? It's always been when people go out and watch movies. History shows. And the cool thing about movies and how they do things, their data set is so good. Like in terms of predicting what works and what doesn't work, they can like figure out within the day of release, even before it's release, of where it's going to track. Through, I still think to me, it's a mystery of how they know 2 days before it releases it's going to be a flop or not, right? Very rarely it's like a surprise hit or whatever, right? So I'm starting to like the biggest thing. I think the biggest crisis the next year after all these layoffs stop and we bounce back is that new games are really going to start competing with old games. Either that's remakes or just just your Steam library, essentially, right? And I don't think people realize that enough, because the same way like a lot of these movies are taking up a lot of your time, that people are just queuing up and waiting, right? I have so many movies that I want to watch. Like you're talking about Planet of the Apes. I love the concept, but I still am trying to make my way through the trilogy. I've seen the first one. I've seen parts of the second one, and I know I'll love it, but it's like there, right? Especially it's on Disney now, right? That I can watch it. It's available. So I turn it on when I can, but I'm finally making my way through Fallout. Right. So, freaking awesome. They did. I don't know why they're not making a BioShock series by now. It's like, dude, just hire the same guys. Dude,
basically.
It's like, but like the biggest crisis that I'm seeing in the next year, and I would love to hear your thought, is going to be this. It's like, it's the same way that Netflix kind of held on to like people sharing their accounts with family and friends, right? Finally turn that switch and they double their profit, right? I think that problem is about to happen with people who just stop buying new games as much because they're, with the economy, people are going to like question, why don't I just play through the Batman, trilogy again? I know it's dope. Haven't played it yet. Like maybe I'll wait this one out. So I don't know what the impact's going to be like when new games. We're going to finally have a bad year, right? We always talk about games growing infinitely, always profiting, but I feel like that year where games are not going to do as well is right around the corner because of what's happening. Well, there's this definitely there's going to be the slowdown because we're firing everybody, right? All vets. All new ideas, basically new students, are going to be out on the curb, right? And there's just going to be this middle developer for like 3 years, I think. And so I think projects are going to stop or slow down, right? And there's going to be this pause in the industry that's going to happen because of this overcorrection that I think irresponsibly the corporations just don't see that. They just think they will fire everybody, and if we need them, we'll hire them back, But like, if you're like in games, it's unique in that way. I mean, probably in games more than movies. Like, I think in games, if one dude that is somewhat central to that project is gone, you feel it. People like peace out mentally. Like it's like, I'm done. This project is shit. Like they don't care about me. I need to start looking for something else. They just stop trying as hard, right? And that kills a project. So I feel like everyone's doing that right now because no one's like, oh, this is just a job, because they obviously just remind me that I'm just a person that's replaceable again.
Yeah. I mean, that's always the case, but
also, more now than ever, I feel that people are saying,
again, you said some stuff there, like Newzoo, the Newzoo report that came out maybe a couple months back now, that Kotaku was reporting on, kind of talked about this a little bit, about how, like, when it comes to the attention of gamers and the time they spent, like a lot of them are either playing, Madden, FIFA, NBA, and a lot of them are also playing, Fortnite, Roblox, and other games and service games.
Right.
And so, like, new games or games that are not those things are going to have a hard time capturing players' attention. And more, the Steam store has more and more games. There's Game Pass where you can just download a tidal wave of game after game, right? So it's going to be harder for new games to kind of break through because, of course, attention, right? And like you said, right, and we're competing with movies and television and the NBA playoffs and all the things, right? But there's that core piece of gamers that you find that are always
spending everything.
Yeah, but they only are doing it with a very small amount of games. Right. And that's kind of where this becomes a kind of a problem.
Yeah, let me kind of highlight some of that from that research report. Right? Gaming engagement today, we're looking at 79% of the total online population engaged with games. Let me switch over so everyone can see. Cross-platform players, you can't see it, right? But I'll read it to you. Nearly 50% of gamers play on more than one platform. So spending behaviors in the past 6 months, 57% of players spent money on video games.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that number dropped. Probably through that report. I need to read through it and kind of dissect it a bit. I bet it dropped in terms of amount of players that actually spend money on it. 57%. Does that seem lower than usual? How brands fit into gaming. Players are reacting positively to brands and discovering new brands while gaming. So advertising. But yeah, I mean, like I do see it. Like I myself am doing that. Like I think on average, I probably spend more money on games than most people. Like I feel like I'm the only one buying games on the meta. Right? I was like, oh, cool. This games look good. Buy, It's like if I see anything in wish list, it's like, oh, I heard about this game. Yeah, let me kind of save that. It's on a discount. I'm still doing that. But I feel like most people aren't. I mean, by the fact that I'm on the PC a lot, so I'm exposed more. But most people, I don't think, do that as much on the phone, right? No one's kind of buying games on the Steam app.
Wait, what? Nobody's buying games on the Steam app?
Not on the phone. I feel like, or we're talking about, if we're talking about,
I've done it once or twice, but it's not like a popular thing. Most people are doing it on the PC, right?
Yeah. Like I'm talking about the pure fact, if your attention span is constantly being pulled by your different devices, right?
Right.
Even though I work more than average on the computer, so I'm constantly exposed to like Steam advertising and maybe a pop up from Epic Games and and when I do pick up my meta, which is a small percentage in a given week, I check out what's there, right? But the phone is still dominant in terms of screen time, right? And by that logic alone, I don't check, what's on Steam on my phone as much. But I'm also not a mobile gamer, right? So I don't ever check the app store for the mobile device about what game is hot right now. I don't know if you have the same kind of experience in terms of screen division.
Yeah. I definitely don't know what's hot in on the mobile side of things at all. Usually,
The one thing I did try was the Netflix thing, right? So I went just to kind of like on the TV because I saw it pop up, which is pretty effective, right? Because every time I try to search for a movie, it's like, oh, I want to play this game. I was like, all right, let me try this out. So you do pop out your phone, right? And it becomes a controller. So they did do that. So so you scan the QR code to turn it into a controller to connect to the TV. So you're not playing the game on the phone. You're playing the phone as a controller.
But I guess it's connected over
Wi-Fi. Yeah. So they figured the basically Stadia problem. Which is cool, but I hate using the phone as a controller. It's just so dumb. It's like there's no tactile feedback. There's obviously a lag, right? There's like a fraction of a lag, and maybe they'll get it sort of better later, but I don't see that problem really going away. Yeah,
the type of games they have on there right now, though, like I don't think it really matters that.
I hate that game. I hate those games, man. It's like those artsy fartsy. It's like it ruins your experience of your game developer, in my opinion, right? In my opinion, because I was like, all right, let me explain this, right? There's nothing wrong with artsy fartsy, but because I come from like a background of production in the business of games, like, oh, obviously this is a small team. They didn't have that much time and resources, so they have to make something impactful with the little time they have. And, you know, it's like, all right, this is about death. This is about mental illness. It's like, oh my God, it's so cheesy. You know what I mean? In my opinion, it's cheesy because it's like, I can tell because of your restraints that you're right. So I can't turn that off and just simply enjoy the game, even though they might be, for the Netflix experience, a good game. I can't move past that, right? Because it's not a game that needed to exist because I want to make this my vision, my way. It's like obviously a game made out of what resources they had, right? Which I'm not knocking on those games. I'm just saying that I can't look past that as a gamer and enjoy the experience. It's like, this was definitely like a game developer with their hands tied behind the back and they just had to make something, right? I think I would feel better if Netflix presented both options, right? The AAA, AA experience as well as those games. But I guess it's a slow rollout and maybe they have those in, you know, they're obviously probably making those in the background. But right now it's like these iPhone games on the Netflix app, and it's like, I'm not really into this, right?
I mean, there's Terra Nil on there. I'll big up Terra Nil because it's actually a good game, and it's on PC too, right? So it's a mobile game. It's on PC. It's on Netflix. I think those, you know, I think that's a great game, right?
Yeah.
I think it's Night in the Woods on there too, right? Night in the Woods is a good game, right? So I wouldn't go artsy fartsy. What they did was they're like, what's some good high quality developers that we could acquire, right, and get their stuff on this platform that is not very demanding, so that we can slowly roll out the system, right? And what we're trying to do here, right? And so it's like a really slow approach to it, which I recognize and really respect, you know what I mean? And so, you know, the games that are more your speed might show up later, right? But this is I think it's a really smart way of like how to deal with the start. You know what I mean?
I hope they have the roadway to make that work. Like the only thing I'm worried about is like if they play it too safe with these low impact games and immediately don't see the data, they might cut it off. You know what I mean? Because the return on the stakeholders, the investors pressure is like, yo, you've been doing this for a year and people are playing it for a minute. You know what I mean? So even though I respect, in my opinion, they're doing the opposite of Stadia. But even Stadia didn't even release anything, right? They just cut everything off completely. I kind of wish that this slow launch included a little bigger game, you know, just to kind of like the only thing I've seen them do successfully, right, was the GTA re-release, right? And that, because when they re-released the GTA 3 Vice City on the phone, right? It beat all this other crap that they have by miles, right? It completely dominated all their games. And I was like, yeah, exactly. There you go. Do more of that. You know what I mean? So like that to me is like, do more of that if you want real process. Data. It is a process. They have all the money in the world. They've been sitting.
No. Google. has all the money in the world, and where Stadia at today, right? Like,
exactly.
So all the money in the world don't mean nothing, right? It's about your strategy and how you want to reach the people and all that. And yeah, maybe the GTA angle was like the next step, like that they're going, okay, let's do a little bit more popular game and see what's up. And at the end of the day, it's got to be like Game Pass, right? There's small games on Game Pass. There's artsy games on Game Pass, as you so say, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But then there's also the highest quality, biggest budget games on Game Pass, right? You need a variety of content to reach all the gamers you want to reach.
Well, you brought up Game Pass, and I have this question about that. All right, so Manor Lords was on Game Pass, did bonkers on PC, right?
Yeah.
It was a replayable game, so I think because of that reason, Game Pass worked because it served as a demo, and it didn't ruin the single player experience. The other game that got released, Hell's Blade, recently, right?
Yeah,
we all know it's a magnificent, high quality game, right? The past week, a lot of knocks on it, right? And then the conversation on X, Twitter, whatever, has been the back and forth of like, is Game Pass good for games, right?
No.
Okay. Carry your thoughts. Well, here's another thing, right? Just to add on to that, Xbox routinely is still struggling with the data of whether this ruins game sales, because Call of Duty was, I don't know if it's been announced, but they were considering about releasing Game Pass for next Call of Duty. But we talked about this, like, why are you killing your cash cow? It's working. It's probably the only thing making you $1 billion. Like, why would you mess with that, right? So let me know your thoughts about what's going on.
Isn't Warzone a multiplayer where all the money's at? Like there's the initial base price for Call of Duty, which is it's bonkers because like how many units does Call of Duty push out, right?
Yeah.
But like all the money's multiplayer and Warzone, right? Like that's where people keep playing and are paying money and paying Battle Pass and doing all that kind of stuff. I would love to see the numbers on that, because I think that's where a lot of money comes from. At the end of the day, so in the case of Call of Duty, for sure. Like I think Game Pass is good for gamers where they're like, oh, I could try out games and demo games day and date. As soon as they come out, I could check them out. That's crazy, right? But I do think it's bad in terms of like Microsoft is obviously losing money on it.
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't see how they could be making money on it, right? Because they're paying for these games to come to the platform, and they're putting up their own games on there that they spent hundreds of millions of dollars making, right?
Yeah.
And are giving away the game. Yeah, sure. Like in some cases, some of these games still sell, but how much is Game Pass eating into that? Like, yeah, I think all of us want to see what those numbers are, but it can't be good, right?
Yeah.
And another source of just limitless games to play.
Yeah.
For a very, if you ask me, very cheap price.
Yeah.
Is kind of bonkers, right? And of course, like when the price is so cheap, you have to grow the user base.
Yeah.
How do you grow user base? Oh, more games, more the highest quality games. Oh, we just bought Activision, put all their stuff up on there. You know what I mean? Right. And it just seems it's unsustainable, right? And the chicken. But here's the thing: as long as bar graph goes up, it's okay, right? But eventually, bar graph is going to stop.
When you say bar graph going up, you're talking about subscribers or what?
Subscribers, yeah. Like, hey, we're having growth. Growth is good, right? But like in this current climate, and I think that's why you're hearing of Microsoft is scaling down and Xbox is firing people and scaling down. Something has to give, right? Because like the stable of games that either have come out or are out are not bringing in the money that they think.
But this is
I wouldn't immediately run and say, oh, this is all Game Pass's fault.
Yeah.
Because on like a lot of the games they're releasing are mid. Right. But you know what I mean? Right.
Yeah.
But but it's probably a mixture of both those things, right? Just mid games that are not really grabbing people's attention, like how games from Sony do.
Yeah.
And the fact that I could try it out on Game Pass and see that it's mid,
yeah,
for free, and then decide if I want to buy it or not.
The sad thing is that I feel like if Ninja Theory was under Sony's camp and they released Hellblade, it would have been another God of War franchise for them.
Yeah, Hellblade's good, man.
Yeah, I know it's good. The quality and the story behind it, a small team that like survived, the transition and with the first game and made a name for themselves. Like I feel
I hate when people do that because Ninja Theory had a name for themselves before.
Yeah, they had a long list, but that transitional period.
Heavenly Sword is a dope game. Like,
but they had to reprove themselves because of the conditions of the industry and just where they were. Mm-hmm. Because Hellblade 1 was mostly like self-financed, right? Just to kind of, it's like a tech demo that became a game, right? Mm-hmm. Like I hate it because I don't want Sony and Nintendo to be the only fighters left, right? I think it's healthy to have like this 3 trifecta consoles always battling out. But like Xbox, I feel like are doing like the most numbskull moves. Like they're cannibalizing themselves like unprovoked, right? They're just it's like Sony just standing on the sideline, just watching Xbox burn themselves. Like they're like dousing themselves with gasoline, like lighting themselves up. Like the economics of Game Pass makes no sense. Like I feel like within the first year, they should be able to see the numbers. And this is the Asian coming out of me. It's like, yo, if you're spending $2 and you're getting $1 back, stop. It's like, no. Let's spend more and get less.
The whole of 2020 and 2021 when stock market was going crazy and the economy was going crazy. That's all it was. It was like, hey, you guys are losing a ton of money. Yeah, but revenue's up. Let's hire more people. Revenue's up. And we're seeing the effects of that now, right? And I think a lot of this is driven by the kind of the same mentality of like, let's grow. Netflix, same thing, and then like you said, they were like, you know what? Enough of this freeloading on the passwords, because now we need to continue to grow and revenue, not people. We need more subscribers to grow the revenue. And one way of doing that is to enforce the password stuff.
Yeah, but they always had that in the back of their pocket of like, oh, we can increase the stock price by doing this. Just wait.
And that's why they did it.
That's why they did it.
Number.
But Netflix was the original visionary that saw streaming as the future. They continued that path. They outlasted, in my opinion, all these copycats with original content, keeping their subscribers, and it became like in every household, the staple of you have a TV, you got to have Netflix, right? Like, I just don't know anyone that's like, no, I get my satisfaction from just Hulu. No, right? But like all these competitors, like even with Xbox is kind of like the outcome of this, let's be like Netflix, right? The Netflix of games, right? Yeah. And they're the last, I feel, stubborn that is losing money in the streaming game and not giving up. Like I feel like Disney, Hulu, Max, like basically Peacock, like all the streaming, I finally realized, oh, this streaming thing we're making no money from this. Like we need to start licensing our IPs again, right? Because we definitely make money in that. We spend no resources keeping the servers up, and people pay billions every 2 years just to play back our IP. And then in the end, the brand recognition of those TV shows, they like NBC or whatever, right? So like, I feel like every stream, like even Apple are realizing like, oh yeah, let's go back to like just making shows and selling it to Netflix. Except for
Apple ain't doing that.
Apple is its own beast, but they have so much money that they can probably outlast everybody. They have so much money, right?
Yeah.
That they can do whatever they want. They do have good content. Like
good, man.
Hulu has good content, right? Like there's a lot of good content on all these streaming, not to take it away, because they have money and they pay for talent, and talent was on a shopping spree, right? It was a employees market for them, right?
Yeah.
So they can, it was great for them. But now I feel like Xbox is kind of like this, didn't pay attention to all this and still going about it as if like we need to be the Netflix of gaming. It's like, no, man, Netflix is becoming the Netflix of gaming real soon, and they'll do it way better than you. Obviously. I mean, they're rolling it out and they're making money. And I know so many people working on these secret projects over at Netflix that they haven't announced, and they're taking their time and they're not sweating it, which also tells me, they are spending their money wisely, because by now Stadia lifetime shut down twice, just by just like talking about making games. But at Netflix, they're fine. So like I'm hearing these things, and Xbox, the saddest thing that I'm seeing too is that they're not maintaining their own first party quality, like Halo. Destiny was Activision. It was never an Xbox thing, but like, Bungie was closely and Microsoft relation, but that's gone. I mean, what other first party game? That Forza? I haven't heard a new Forza. They've destroyed. They destroyed, diluted their first party titles. Like Hellblade is supposed to be a flagship title, and they release it on Xbox Game Pass, right?
Yeah. I mean, when you open up Game Pass, though, the whole background is just Hellblade, right?
That is the dumbest thing. It's a 6-hour narrative experience. I mean, YouTube already ruins it for narrative gameplay, and then Xbox is like, let me do you one better. It's like. Like, why would everyone want to play this game if you can watch it at the same time? Just rent it, It's like you're ruining any chance for anyone to buy this game because it's not even available on Steam, right? Is it?
No, it is. It
is. But why would I want to buy it on Steam if I can go on Xbox?
Because you don't believe in Game Pass, right?
If it wasn't, I would have bought it on Steam. Like, honestly, just to support. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Like people talk about, back in the day, remember when DRM was a thing?
Yeah.
And people were like, anti-DRM, and some still are. And they're like, I only buy my games from GOG or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And every step of the way is the publishers and the developers trying to figure out ways of how can we get people to run us our money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think subscription services like Game Pass, Stadia, what Netflix is doing is another attempt at like, we want to make sure we get our money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And some people are like, but I don't feel like I own the games that I'm buying anymore.
Yeah.
And so there are some that will want to push back and rebel against that and go, no, I want to own the game that I buy. Right. And if I buy it, I want to be able to give it to somebody else. I want to be able to back it up. I want to be able to do all these things with it because it's something that I own. Right. And more, it's turning, games are turning into this commodity, this thing that you don't own, and you just have the right to play. Right. You have the licensing rights to play. And whether in the long term that will win or not, I don't know. But I know like a lot of the publishers and stuff are like kind of pushing that way, right? Ubisoft said something along the lines of, like, we don't want you to own your games. Right? So something like that, right? And then everybody was like all up in arms about what he said, right? But I think it's obvious that's what all these companies want, right?
Yeah,
it's really obvious.
To add to that,
go ahead. Because monthly, you're going to pay monthly, and we have you forever.
Yeah. Rather
than you just buying Madden once a year.
Yeah.
That's $60. The hell, you pay our service $12 a month for a year, and that's Madden's covered.
Yeah.
More than right.
Yeah.
So
I got to give props to Sony. I mean, they figured it out. Like, I have PlayStation Network. The service is, pales in comparison to the Game Pass, right?
Yes.
In terms of just UI capability, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But, I'm able to at least go on there and see old PlayStation 2 titles, 3 titles. It's like, once in a while. It's basically having an arcade machine, that plays very certain type of games. And it's a nice to have add-on, right? Which for that price, still justifiable, for like $60 a year or whatever. You still have this library of games, and if you want to go take a stroll on memory lane, it's cool to kind of boot up Crash Bandicoot or whatever, right? So I at the same time, they're not devaluing these blockbuster titles. They're still selling these big
I'll say
games.
this. Yeah, I'll say this. Give it time.
Give it time. Do you think that Sony's gonna go and
why am I? Ask me why am I saying that?
Yeah.
4 years ago, I probably would have told you a Sony game would never touch a PC.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe 5 years ago, I would have told you that. Right? That's obviously not true today.
Yeah.
Why? People should ask themselves why, right?
Yeah.
And it's obvious why these things cost a ton of money to make, right? And you don't want to be able to reach as much people as you can. And there's no hardware limitations for, like the PlayStation and the Xbox are just PCs these days. So like the porting cost and porting effort is not as much as it was back in the day.
Yeah.
Right. And what you mean? I can take this blockbuster game that every Sony person loves and knows plays.
Yeah.
And everybody knows about this game actually, but then they're just not in our ecosystem. Let me go to PC and I could reach a whole next classic gamer.
Yeah.
And increase revenue, increase sales in doing so, right? And when that's tapped, don't be surprised to see something else down the line, right?
Yeah.
So I think when it comes to it, at the end of the day, people want to reach as much gamers as they can.
Yeah.
Right. And also guarantee some sort. And that's why Game Pass, people are like, yeah, sure. You would guarantee a certain amount of sales so that my game is profitable and like I make my money back and all that. Sure. Go ahead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like developers, good for developers that way. But it also it is good for users in that way, but in general, it's kind of bad for the industry.
Right? I think it's bad too, man. Like I think Sony, finding a second life, because this is probably the first Sony console I never own. I don't own a PS. What is it? 5? I don't even know. It's on a 5 now, right?
Yeah, like what number is it?
Yeah. I have no idea. But like because they're porting it to Steam, I'm buying them now. Like the God of Wars, the recent Ghost Tsushima. Like I've been wanting to play that. Now it's out there. It's like, all right, great. Now I can have it. Yeah.
They're still being kind of stubborn and doing that like a year later or multiple years later.
But I think it's smart. It's smart.
All I know is I could see that
dwindling down.
Yeah.
I think they'll probably do simultaneous release, most likely, right? Because if people want to buy the console, they'll buy the console. But people like me is like, I don't feel like buying the console. I'll wait for the PC. I don't think there's anybody on the fence anymore. And I agree. They'll probably realize that and be like, let's just release it, dude. Wherever you want to get it, get it. It's a Sony production, right? And maybe there's a plus with the hardware of why you should have the hardware. But other than that, it doesn't matter.
And I think the one reason too why Sony's not releasing it date right now is like, we don't want to cannibalize those sales, right? And it might be right when you look at what's going on with Microsoft and everybody's like, oh, Game Pass is cannibalizing their sales, right? Yeah, their own sales, right? So maybe there's some truth to that. Like if Sony did put their games on PC, less people wouldn't care about their ecosystem.
They're doing fine. So I'll give them credit with that. Like they got some kind of insight that's telling them like this is working.
I think end of the day, it's like content is king, right? They just make good stuff, right? And people are going to play it wherever it is, So I don't even know if I would be too worried about that.
No, Sony's fine. Like I'm just comparing the two because like obviously one is working and one isn't, right? And it'll help if Microsoft pay attention to what Sony's doing. Sony's definitely paying attention to what Xbox is doing and just doing the opposite. I do want to bring up this one thing, right? Steam.
Yeah.
This is the funny thing, right? Even Xbox having Windows, having all this access, they're like the only company that don't have their ecosystem in check, right? They don't have any ecosystem. Everything's so separate, right? Because even Steam, in terms of PC market, is dominating on Windows. Like Xbox Windows or whatever their marketplace is, I don't even know. Like I don't even buy anything from their market. You know, there's nothing.
Well, no, they let Steam do that though because they didn't care about their.
But Steam does it so much better, right? They have their shit.
But dude, also remember when Steam first came out?
Yeah.
Do you remember when Steam first came out?
Yeah, it was terrible.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't terrible. It was just as good as it is today. So they added new features, right? But it was just as good as it is today. But everybody was like, no. Yeah. I want to have an actual CD. I don't want to download my games. That's bull, right? You remember that? You remember when Half-Life came out? You had to install Steam. Everybody was pissed, right? Yeah. Like people were pissed about that, right?
Yeah.
So
so smart, visionaries,
right? Yeah. So they were they were way ahead. And then at the time, everybody's like, Microsoft, like you need to kind of do this too. And Microsoft's like, nah, we don't care about games, you know, like we don't care about games on the Windows platform. Numerous times people were like, PC gaming is dead.
Yes.
Numerous times people were saying this.
But it's growing right now, right?
Over the years, right?
Yeah.
And it's growing right now, right? But there's many years people were like, PC gaming is dead. The death of PC gaming. Yeah. Consoles are king, right? And I think
Gabe's with his money. Just looking, just counting as a what? Just the Dave Chappelle meme. A little.
And Microsoft bought into that for a long time. And then they finally realized like, oh, wait a second. Maybe we should like care about the platform that we
They're idiots.
Games on it, right?
Yeah, what's going on over there?
And once they finally did that, you can see they've made some strides, but still like,
too late.
Like Steam is such an entrenched foothold, right? Like it's going to be hard to topple that. Epic is even struggling to topple that, right?
Yeah. That's the funny thing is like Netflix and Steam are the leading platforms for these examples, right? And Epic Game Store. I have so many games on Epic. Besides maybe playing Fortnite with my kids sometimes, I haven't played a single game on that thing. Like I haven't really. I just collect, and I know it's there.
Free games.
I have the Batman trilogy there. I have everything. I have the Tomb Raider trilogy because they gave it away for whatever reason. Like this is like the school of Xbox. It's like, hey man, spend $2 and get $1 back. School of economics. It's like, why are you guys doing this? Like, how are you making money? And then years later, what did I say? Years later, it's like, hey man, it seems like we're not making any money. Epic starts firing everybody, cutting off teams.
Invest in user acquisition, right? You have to invest.
It's stupid, man. I think it's like people fell in love with the idea of Silicon Valley, right? Without knowing the reasoning behind it. Netflix became Netflix because they saw the future of streaming and it wasn't DVDs. And they did it when people were annoyed with it, right? When Netflix were like doing their streaming, people didn't like that. They was like, give me my DVDs, dude. It was a hard transition, right? Yeah. The same way that Steam was a thing.
I was one of those people, definitely.
Yeah, of course. But like, the way Xbox, the way that these other companies are copying, like Epic Game Store with their 12%, it's like, oh, that sounds great. How's that working for you? Like, I haven't heard any mega success from these first parties that Epic publish.
Which first? Well,
they finance a bunch of projects, right?
Yeah. Which one was published by? Oh, Alan Wake 2. Wasn't that published by Epic?
Yeah, check out the sales on that.
That's a huge success, though.
It was not a huge success. Alan Wake 2.
It's a critical,
yeah, because Remedy are great developers, but the people that were publishing it did not do a good job, did they? Right? That game to me should have sold a lot more. Again, like
Epic published it.
Yeah. Like the sad thing is like Steam and Sony, right? Like any of those games that flopped are critically highly rated. If they somehow were in those camps, I felt like they would have done a lot better. The same way that Hell's Blade, if that was a Sony exclusive, it would have been a God of War franchise, right? No doubt, right? Because the care, the promotion around it, the hype, I mean, the quality of the Sony brand will propel those game sales, and not putting it out for free on their stupid Game Pass. Yeah,
it's actually so sad. They published Rumbleverse. Love that game. It's gone.
Epic, right? Epic published it.
Epic published them. Yeah, Fall Guys. Epic published.
Fall Guys bought Fall Guys after, but their team is demolished.
Yeah, and also like I heard things about Dauntless as well. Things aren't going so well over there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But this is what I'm saying. It's like the Silicon Valley mindset is killing the game industry, and I'm putting Microsoft under that umbrella, and in a lot of ways, Epic is doing that. Like, what have we heard from Epic that has been successful in any of this new, like, altruistic, in my opinion, fake altruism, basically to sell more Fortnite, right? Because everything they do is to sell more Fortnite. It has nothing to do with anything else, right?
Well, yeah, it's to lock you in.
To lock you in to play Fortnite.
Ecosystem. Yeah.
It's like, here's Alan Wake 2, play more Fortnite. You know, it's like, and it sucks because it's such short-term thinking, and we're losing like these great IPs under different conditions, and not even changing the game, just marketing conditions. It would excel, and it would have been a staple, the same way that Max Payne 2 was, and everything.
I think it's just hard, right? Because there's just so many games out there. It's just hard.
I don't think it's hard. I think it's just people just being dumb. I really do think it's just like, I think about it. It's just people just don't understand the consumers. Like I'm not knocking on Game Pass. It has its value, but it doesn't have to. You don't have to day one. Like you know what it is? It feels like Phil Spencer trying to save his job and justify. He's so in the hole with Game Pass. It's like, throw more into it. You know, the same way that, like, if you were doing something great that has nothing to do with Game Pass, I was like, I'll put it under Game Pass to kind of like, you know what I mean? Just to make my idea bigger and better, just to pump up the numbers. You know what I mean? I feel like that's what they're doing right now, just to kind of cover like the mistakes, right? So they're throwing a great game like Hell's Blade under the bus, in my opinion. Like, the way they did that game and that team, Ninja Theory, is so dirty. Like, it didn't deserve that. Like, that is like such a darling story in the game industry, that team. Like, the technology they put behind it, the production quality, it has AAA written all over it. And the way they just release it for free, basically, just, it's not that type of game. It's a narrative game. Like, why would you put that? It's like back in the old days. It's like, here's a 6-hour demo. What? How long is the game? 6 hours? I was like, why would you not think that it would hurt sales? You know what I mean? And they do, but it's more like, let's sell Game Pass, you know? And it's completely not understanding, you know, what game sales are like in nowadays, right? The one thing I do want to mention, and this kind of rolls into our last topic, so I got to talk about Steam, right? The funny thing about Steam, how successful it is, that they just now, what it feels like 20 years into Steam, right? Or more, they had a disclaimer saying that your library dies with you. Did you see that? That you can't pass that account to, like, it's a problem they never thought they had to think about, but now they have people dying, and so people are asking, it's like, can I give that to my son? It's like, no, it dies with you. I'm kind of half and half of how I feel. I mean, in a way, it's like, why can't I just give him my account? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'd be the same thing.
Should be your prop. But that's the thing, right? Your account isn't yours,
right?
Right, to give to anybody.
There's a workaround still, right?
You're borrowing. Right, the access to it for now, and once you're dead, hey, the license is over. That's ours.
I can roll it over in my will. Like how good are they at tracking that down? Yeah. But I'm bringing that up because it was
put your password. Put your password in your will.
I'm gonna, dude. I have 200 games in there, dude. My grandson should be playing this shit. Put it in an arcade machine. But I'm bringing this up because one of the rumors that I got that kind of scared me because I'm so anti-Microsoft right now is that Microsoft was in the rumor mill buying Valve again. And this popped up recently for $16 billion. I don't know if you saw that. And I'm sure there was some weight behind that.
I did.
Shopping around. I was like, oh my God, they're going to fire everyone at Steam.
Okay, so two things.
Two things.
One, Microsoft has probably wanted to buy Valve
forever,
for a million years. Yeah. Right. Like let's just get that out of the way.
Yeah.
Number two, I can't think of a quicker way to kill any company.
Yeah.
Right then for Microsoft to buy them.
Buy Steam.
I just cannot see that going well at all.
Yeah.
Like at all ever. And three, because it's still a private company, right? Like there's a few people that are in control of all the things.
Yeah.
And I don't see them ever making that decision. Maybe selling to somebody else, right? But to Microsoft,
it's the worst company to give it to.
I can never see that happening in a million years, right? But of course, Microsoft wants to buy Valve like every day of the week, like you know what I mean.
But this is what I mean. Is like
they're knock on the door every day and be like, "Hey."
But like, I feel like they're so bad with their Microsoft economics right now, right? That to cover their tracks and mistakes, they're just buying companies like Bethesda, and they fired a bunch of people recently.
I don't think it's to cover mistakes. It's literally content. Content's hard to make.
I get content's hard to make, but if their priorities Game Pass, here's the thing: it's a shredder that's just like bleeding money, right? And they're like, and there's like, oh, we're running out of things to throw in there. Let's throw and buy. It's like it's like just stop. It's like self-destructive.
Do you see how long that court case went on for? The Activision Blizzard court case, right? Like Microsoft was like, no, like
they really wanted
to have this because they know like
they were going to die out.
Yeah, the content's not there, and it's like one team making a game like 5, 6, 7 years later is when the game's popping out. You need to have this stuff staggered. You need content in the pipe.
Right? But this is what like I'm so worried because they're spending $2 and they're making $1 back. Like this has a short tail before they have to buy another Valve, right? And their solution is just spending.
Yeah,
they're trying to spend more than they waste, which is what they've been doing for years. And like this Valve thing scares me. Is like, dude, what are you guys doing? Are you trying to destroy yourself completely?
Yeah, this reminds me of something else that I will not talk about.
So, like, Microsoft, like it or not, with all my criticism about them, they are an important staple of the game industry. I mean, just the fact of the 2 years alone, they're leading the pack in terms of layoffs right now, right? And that is having a huge impact for the next 3 years of where these developers going, staying. Or even mentoring, right? Newer students, they're gone, right? And Microsoft is a big part of that blame, and they're on this buying spree. And I hope Gabe isn't that bored to give into that, which I feel like he doesn't want to, and hopefully he keeps Steam within his family and treat it like In-N-Out, right? Just pass on to his kids to run the place. I mean, by now it must be like run itself, right? I mean, what they've been like small forever, and it's like a multi-billion-dollar moneymaker.
Yeah.
And they're like kind of leaked like their next game, but like they don't even care. You know, it's like, yeah, it's out there. We'll work on something. Maybe not. Who cares? It's like Team Fortress for the you seen that, like their little gameplay with robots and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. They're not making another game. Well, all they do is just make games in the back, but like they're not making another game, man.
They're not trying as hard, right? If it's cool, they'll release it. If not, but I'm really worried about this Microsoft stuff because they cannibalize themselves, right? To relate it to Fallout, which ironically they own now, but they have nothing to do with it. That's the funny thing, right? But they'll take credit for it. It's like, look at, we're making movies now. Yeah, let's do that on Game Pass. It's like it's a show. It's like, oh, never mind. But like the same way they cannibalize in the vaults, right? They're starting to buy companies to cannibalize them to kind of like basically until Phil Spencer gets fired, man. I feel like that staff is on the brink of getting canned the way things are. I really do. Like in the next year
I think somebody did mention that like on Twitter or somewhere. They're like, it's time
to change
that we look at Phil Spencer's performance and make decisions, right?
Yeah.
Somebody was saying that recently, right? Yeah. And I was kind of like, I mean, you're not wrong, but at the same time, it's like, I can't even remember when Phil Spencer started that job. He's been in that job so long. It's such a staple. Obviously cares about games. He
can't run things, dude.
I can't imagine who Microsoft would put in his place.
But I mean, there must be some kind of timeline graph by now of when Phil Spencer took over. And since then, all their first party.
There was some glory. There was some glory there for a bit, It's just really in this last
10 years. That's a long time, bro.
Yeah, maybe last 10 years. It's been kind of like, I don't know, guys. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, what first party Microsoft game still stands high that they didn't buy, right? What first party?
Like Halo, I guess. Forza.
But Halo and Forza have been suffering.
Forza Horizon.
Forza team got hit with layoffs.
I mean, every team got hit with layoffs.
Yeah, but like Forza was like a untouched team. It's like a proven like NBA 2K franchise, right? It's like just release every year and it's good. People buy them. We have a stable fan base. It was
every other or whatever.
Yeah, but they were like
kind of like it's Forza or Forza Horizon.
Right, but they were like getting more recognition than the Gran Turismo. Like when that happened, when Forza was better than Gran Turismo, I was like, whoa, that is impossible. But they did it. And then they got affected in this like Phil Spencer time era, right? It's like, dude, at what point?
You know what that is? It's just like, guys, this number here, it has to go down. And then they're like, well, how do we make this number go down? Right. And a lot of times, sometimes you make targeted strikes. And I think targeted strikes have been going on. But then when it's like a mass thing, it's just like, okay, we just got to chop it off the top, and so everybody's going to get affected. And it sucks, right? Because it's like, it's clearly like maybe you should be affecting teams that are not producing results more. Right?
Yeah.
But I think they kind of did that when like the whole Remedy Austin team was just gone. Right.
Yeah.
Which was just kind of like, yo, that's crazy. You're like, Remedy makes dope games,
Yeah.
Redfall was a thing, and then there's some rumors that like the team didn't really want to make Redfall. Well, it shows, right? Because like if you don't really want to make something, product's going to suffer because the passion is not there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, them getting rid of Arcane Austin.
Sorry. Yeah, I messed up on that.
It didn't happen that long ago, Ray. Jesus Christ.
That's the esteem I hold them in, though. I can't tell them apart from Remedy or Arcane.
No, I'm surprised by that move too. One bad game, you get rid of that many talent. I don't think that's justified. It's like what I see what they're doing with Microsoft is what I fear for the rest of the industry. This overcorrection, because Microsoft as a quality studio is gone, right? They got rid of like these talents, and then somehow they think these tentpole recognizable brands are going to make themselves, and they haven't been able to recover. Like this past 10 years, I can't remember a Microsoft game being a mega hit, right? On its own right? And Game Pass sucks, right? So like they haven't done anything right. And so what I'm seeing is that the rest of the industry is kind of following that formula, and we'll start seeing the same type of problems, right? Where their games are not selling as well, or they're gonna start questioning. It's like, why isn't Furiosa, doing? I feel like it's gonna be the same type of shit, because all the people, visionaries essentially, are gone. I'm really kind of curious and scared what the next 3 years look like for games from this overcorrection. Like, I think the ramification of this overcorrection will be felt.
There's less games
for a lot. Yeah, less quality games. Yeah,
it's gonna be less games. 100%. Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's pretty much it. There's a lot, but hopefully things get better by next roundtable. But it's just awful news. It's becoming like we haven't really talked about great, cool things because it's just so much terribleness happening.
Yeah, I think right now, it has slowed down.
A lot.
I think, right. Okay. And so, like, at least I don't expect all summer long to hear about more people being laid off. Thankfully, I'm hearing about people getting jobs. I am hearing that more.
I am seeing that a little. Yeah. But I do know that Microsoft and a couple other studios are kind of holding on to layoffs. There's at least one big one left, which sucks because it's half the year already. It's like, Jesus Christ. So that needs to stop completely for it to start really turning around. And I think everyone is kind of really hoping that happens before the end of the summer, right? Jesus. So anyways, thank you, Ray, for stopping by. As always, you can find him on X or Twitter, Wateraz. Look at the LinkedIn description below. Conversate. Jump on Discord and let's have a chat. I'm always looking at like next topics for our next roundtable, and you guys feeding it in Discord or any other way that you can find me is always helpful. See you guys next time. Lates.
Thank you.